Today the title of the message is Man on a Ledge. And before I get into this, you guys can turn your Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 11. My dad mentioned, I preached Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and then, last night, and then 2 times today. And he was talking about the stamina thing. I hope I still have it because it is my anniversary and I have plans for tonight. Just want to throw that out there. Don't get awkward. You're all here because someone did it, so it's okay. I'm the youth pastor. I can say whatever I want to say. So turn your Bibles to 1 Samuel, again, chapter 11. And today we're going to talk about what it means to be a man or a woman on a ledge. Is anybody in here afraid of heights? No? Yeah? Who is not afraid of heights? You're afraid of telling the truth, but it's okay. I'm afraid of heights in every way you can possibly imagine being afraid of heights. I could be at the bottom of a tower and look up and start shaking. I could be at the top of the tower looking down. I could be going up, going down. I love roller coasters. It's crazy. It's even more crazy being on a roller coaster because I think I'm dying every second of it. So it's like that whole feeling 24/7 while you're on it. But my family went on the worst vacation you could possibly go on as a family ever, if you were afraid of heights. And it was probably about 10, 15 years ago, early high school. I was probably a freshman in high school. My family decided they wanted to go on this horrifying vacation to the Grand Canyon. And when you're afraid of heights, the Grand Canyon is not beautiful. You cannot even think about appreciating its beauty or its majesty. You just see it as death and darkness. Is anybody with me on that? Okay. So we went to the Grand Canyon, and I remember driving up to it, and my younger brother, Jonathan, has a few screws loose in his head, and he was like 12, not really, he's like a genius, he's a pharmacist and all kinds of stuff, but he still has screws loose. He's the guy, if you go snowboarding, he's going to try 360 backflips and do stuff and land on his neck and jump up anyways and do it again. But when he's 12, you can imagine that personality as a middle schooler at the Grand Canyon, and this is a bad recipe starting to brew. So we were pulling up, and my family's talking and making fun of me about how I'm afraid of heights while we're driving. Loving pastoral family, making fun of me, driving. So we get up there, and immediately when we stop, we're at the top, and Jonathan opens the door and just starts running as fast as he could towards the edge of the Grand Canyon. And I get out of the car. None of this is exaggerated. I get out of the car, and my parents are just laughing. I don't know if they have devised a plan against me. I don't know what's happening, but he's just running as fast as he can. I'm running after him, looking at my parents. I'm screaming. I fall to my knees, and Jonathan, I'm afraid of heights this bad. I'm so afraid of heights. If I see somebody even go to the edge at Coronado Mall and grab on upstairs and just look over, I collapse. I'm that afraid of heights. And so Jonathan's running, and I drop to my knees. I'm screaming, no! And Jonathan gets to the railing, goes, phew, and just stops on top of the railing. And I think it's 80 million feet down. I didn't know there was a 10-foot ledge. And Jonathan's like, Dustin's on this ledge, teetering back and forth. And I'm screaming with everything. And you look at my parents, screaming at them, saying, you are horrible parents. Get your son. Dad, you're not a pastor. You're a fake. Get your son. You don't even love him. I'm screaming. My dad's just hunched over, laughing his head off at me. And I'm thinking Jonathan's going to die, but apparently there's a 10-foot ledge. But whatever it is, there are, in some people with physical things, how many of you guys love doing things where you just getting right to the edge of death, defying death, and you go, I just skydived, I just went cliff jumping, I'll ride a bull. Anybody like that? Just crazy, have a few screws loose, you know what I'm talking about? What is it inside of us that likes to just push the limits and get to the edge on everything in life? We want to get as close as we can to death and go, not today. You ride a roller coaster, a seatbelt, and something electronic is holding you in. Do you ever get in a roller coaster and just look down and go, what happens if the electricity goes out? And this thing just goes pop, and you die. Do you ever think about that? No, I do. So anyways, we're crazy people. We're crazy people. But spiritually, we do the exact same thing. As Christians, many of us, and I think one of the biggest epidemics in America today is we have people that are claiming to know Christ that are wanting to get as close as they can to the edge of sin and still call themselves a Christian and still ride on the fact that they have a free ticket to heaven because of what they're claiming, not because of what they're living. And I think that's one of the greatest problems in America. In this political season, we're trying to say that we think voting a president in to lead our country is going to change things. No. It is not going to change the spiritual dynamic of our country. God never said in His Word, the president you elect is going to change the country spiritually. He said the power of the local church is going to change nations. It's going to change the world. But the problem is the local church isn't a building, it's you. So I'm talking about you today. Why do we, me and you, want to get as close as we can to sin and still try to call ourselves godly? What is it inside of us that wants to push the limits and be a man or a woman on the ledge? The scripture today is about the story of David. He's already the king of Israel, and he has just he's at the height of his life. And in 1 Samuel 11 and verse 1, it starts out by saying this, the story of a man on a ledge. In the spring, at the times when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole army of Israel. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. Right when we kick off this verse, there are two huge things that you need to know with this whole idea of us living on this ledge. David was the king, right? Yes, okay. Yes, he was the king. David was the king. It said at the time when kings go off to war, where was David? In Jerusalem. He was a king, and the Bible said he should have been there, but he was here. He was not where he was supposed to be. At the time when he should have been there, he remained here. Isn't it interesting that 9 times out of 10, when we mess up and slip off of this edge of temptation and sin, we are somewhere that we should not be when God has called us to be somewhere else. We are acting a certain way when God has called us to act a different way, and we find ourselves in the exact same position as King David. At a time when you should have been there, you found yourself here. And that is the premise that opens up this whole story of how David is on the ledge and finds himself falling off. But you have to know this about David as well. I mean, like I said, he was at the height of his life. At this point, let's rewind into David's life for a second. This is the same David that was a shepherd boy that God anointed to be king. This is the same David that honored the king, honored the authority, even when he deserved to be king. This is the David that killed Goliath through the power of God. This is the David that the entire nation chanted his name. He became king, won every battle that he went into. He rescued and took back the Ark of the Covenant, the presence of God, marched it back into Jerusalem with the entire nation watching. David is the man. He is at the height of his life. There has never been a greater king than King David at this point. At the height of his life, why would he choose to be at a place that he shouldn't have been when he was supposed to be a king at war? Why? Why was he doing that? Was it pride? Maybe. The Bible doesn't tell us why he stayed, but you can start assuming some biblical assumptions here. He's at the height of his life. I don't really want to go to war. I mean, I've been fighting and winning and winning and winning. I just win all the time. Why don't I just stay here? But the Bible also tells us that if it was pride, pride comes before the what? Fall. So here's what happens with David. One evening, David came up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite." David, maybe he was prideful and stayed. He should have been at war. Finds himself one night, I can't sleep. Goes up on the roof, goes to the ledge of the palace roof, and sees a woman bathing. Sins for her, and that's where the whole story starts unfolding. Why did he move to the edge of the roof? Why did he move to the edge of the roof? You have to know this about the palace. The palace in Jerusalem, the stairs weren't like on the edge. They weren't in the corners. The stairs were right smack in the middle of the palace roof. So when he walked up onto the roof that night when he couldn't sleep, when he first gets to the top, he can't see anything over the ledge. Nothing. He had to physically walk from the safety of the center of the palace roof to the danger of the ledge in order for him to see the woman bathing and for the temptation to begin. He physically had to go to the ledge, and many of us find ourselves at the ledge spiritually, at this edge. Why? What? Could it have been lust? Could it have been lust? Could it have been this anxious feeling of looking forward to seeing something, this lust of looking? Maybe he knew. Could it have been that? What moved him to the edge of the roof? Lust, my definition of lust, is a God-given desire gone haywire. A God-given desire gone haywire. And here's what's interesting. Everyone in this room knows what the outcome of following a lustful desire is. Everyone. If I were to talk to you and you're married and I go, hey, there's someone who's not your spouse, you lust after her, what is the outcome of that? Not good? Yes, we know that. Okay, that's not good. So you see this opportunity to embezzle some money and you lust after that money at work. What's the outcome of that? Not good, right? You guys with me on this? We can logically say the outcome to following a lustful desire is never going to be good, right? Have you guys ever seen one of those bug zappers before? You guys probably know where I'm going with this. We were in Alabama this summer on vacation in the deep south. Those bug zappers are everywhere. So if you haven't seen one, it's because you haven't gotten out of Albuquerque enough. You go to a place with bugs, they're everywhere. I was rocking on this little rocking chair in this restaurant. We were sitting outside on this porch waiting to go in. It's like the whole typical southern thing. Hot, humid, bugs, rocking chairs. The whole thing right there. That's the South in a nutshell. So I was in a rocking chair sitting on the porch of this restaurant, and I'm looking up and I see this bright blue neon bug zapper. And I have really bad ADD, so this is great for me. I'm looking at it and going, this is crazy. And I would watch one bug after another just bzz, bzz, die. Bzz, bzz, die. Just like in a line. Bzz, bzz, die. And I'm sitting there thinking, just rocking, having this deep philosophical conversation in my head about bugs dying. And I go, at what point do you as a bug fly and see all of your friends fly towards this light, and when they touch it, they die? At what point do you see that and go, I may not want to go to that bug zapper. I may not want to go to that light. At what point do you look at all of the bug carcasses laying on the ground, and you go, there is Jack and John and Jill and Jan. I am not going to fly into that because all my friends are dead when they go there. But no, one after another, bzz, bzz, die, bzz, bzz, die. Isn't it interesting that we, as humans, could look at that and go, they are stupid. But we do the exact same thing. We look at this and we go, hey, did you see what happened to that person? Oh, we know the outcome of a lustful desire. We know until it hits us. What do I do with this lustful desire? I must go after this. But wait, all my friends, look at the devastation, look at the people, look at the stories. We know all the devastation, but just like a bug going to its death, we go. And that's what the power of sin can do when you don't understand how to manage it. With David, it wasn't the look that got him in trouble with Bathsheba. He comes to the edge of the palace and sees this beautiful woman bathing. When he comes to the edge and he sees that and even desires it, that is not what gets him in trouble. That is not lust. That is a God-given desire. Let me explain. God gives you the desire to have sex, correct? Yeah, no wonder we have some struggling marriages. Okay. God gives you the desire to have sex, correct? That still wasn't good enough. That's your problem. Okay. When David sees this, he has the desire. That desire is God-given, but it's not God-given for her. That's where the breakdown happens. Godliness says, I desire it, but I want God more. Sin says, I desire it, and I'm going to make a decision to move towards it. And that's what David does. He calls for her. Who is she? Go get her. And that's what messed everything up. And he asked this question, who is she? Who is she? Oh, that's Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah. Come on. You can do just a little bit of research and know David already knew who she was. Just a little bit of research. You can dive into Scripture and know that Uriah, her husband, was one of David's mighty men. There were 30. David's mighty men were not these, random soldiers. They were his personal bodyguards. Are you telling me that you don't even know the wife of one of your best friends? No, they've been to parties and festivals and feasts in the palace. He knew who Bathsheba was. But in that moment, he may have pretended like he didn't. Who is this woman? Well, that's Bathsheba. Oh, okay. go get her. Why was he even up on the roof to begin with? I ask, when I read scripture, I ask a lot of questions. I'm like, what? That's weird. I wake up in the middle of the night or wake up and I can't sleep. I don't know about you, but I've never had the thought when I've woken up and can't sleep, I would like to go on the roof. Mandy, I'm going to go on the roof. I can't sleep. I've never done that. I've never thought about getting the ladder out of the garage and putting it up there. I think about food and orange juice. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, do we have anything? A cereal? I'll nibble on anything. I'll get this, I'll get cereal, donut. My dad is notorious for midnight snacks. You can go to their house and you know, in the middle of the night, my dad is in his kitchen. At 1 o'clock, you want to find my dad? He's in the kitchen, cutting donuts in half, pretending like half a donut isn't as bad as the whole thing. That's what he does. This is what my dad does. He walks in and there's a donut, and he goes, I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to eat that half. And then he comes back and eats the other half. Like, Dad, you just ate the whole thing. Do you realize that? Yes. Cutting it in half somehow makes it better. Whatever. Anyways, that's what I think about, and apparently my dad does too. David wakes up and goes, I just want to go on the roof. Well, you have to know something. It wasn't that random. He knew something that I found out and that many people know. Back then, people bathed on their rooftops at night. Why? That's weird. Well, I'll tell you why. During the day, they had these giant cisterns, these huge containers that caught rainwater during the day. And through the heat of the sun during the day, the water would warm up. So at night, before they went to bed, they would go on the rooftops and bathe. Let's rewind. David is in his bed. This was not innocent. I'm just going on the roof, God. He wakes up and goes, I'm bored or whatever. Maybe if I go on the roof, I'll see something. He goes on the roof, walks towards the ledge, sees the woman bathing, and acts on sin. He knew what he was going to find. Verse 4, then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. I will not talk about that because that's awkward. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David saying, I am pregnant. Ooh. Can you imagine that moment? You just slept with one of your best friend's wives, and now she's pregnant. He was sleeping in the wrong bed. He broke a covenant through marriage, and he broke a covenant with God in that moment. I just want to say this to people that think you can win this battle of this teetering on the edge, this balance beam act on the edge. You won't. Because eventually, even King David, a man after God's own heart, who literally had the hand of God behind everything he did, found himself on a ledge. No human can live on the ledge and the edge of temptation and sin forever. There will be a day where you slip while you're balancing, where you slide and you fall off and you dive into something that you never in a million years would have thought you would do. There will be a day when it happens because Christians and Christ followers were not meant to live on the danger of the ledge. We were meant to live in the safety of the godliness of the center of the palace roof. That's where we were designed and meant to live. So they have sex. Bathsheba goes to Walgreens and gets a pregnancy test and it comes back blue. And she's like, oh man. It's got 3 lines. That means something. And she was pregnant. So she gets out her phone and she sends David a text message and sends it. David's just sitting at the desk and he hears bzzz, and he picks up his phone. I'm pregnant. And you're like, oh my gosh. That is one bad day for David. She's pregnant. So David, just like many of us, what we all do, he immediately does the godly thing and comes clean. Immediately. That's a lie. He does not come clean. Immediately, just like many of us, David just goes, okay, I've done something really bad. I've sinned against God. Well, he didn't think of that. I've sinned. And these are our options as humans. I come clean or I cover it up. David covers it up or tries to. Immediately he's thinking, how in the world can I cover this up? What am I going to do? And he devises this plan. It sounds like a master plan, just like in many of our minds to cover it up. Here's my master plan. In verse 6, so David sent this word to Joab, the general. Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. It's like nonchalant. He comes and he's like, hey, how's it going? How are the soldiers? How's your mom? How's your wife? How's this? How's it going? How's the war? And he's like doing a little fist pump. And David acts like everything's fine. How jacked up is that? He just sleeps with this guy's wife and gets her pregnant, and he's at war fighting for him. And David acts like everything's fine. He acts like he's bringing him home to bless him. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. This is what David does. His plan is to bring Uriah home, give him a gift, to take to Bathsheba, his wife, hoping that through this he would sleep with Bathsheba. And when he goes back to war, when he comes home, there will be a baby or she will be pregnant, and he will automatically assume that it's his because of this night that they had sex. So that's David's plan, and he sends him, but this is interesting. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all of his master's servants and did not go down to his house. What all of this to say, there are definitely people then and in this world today that still have some integrity. And Uriah comes home fighting for David, and he has this opportunity to go see his wife. But he is so loyal to God, his king, and the cause that he sleeps on the doorstep of the palace. And he doesn't even go home to his wife. So all of a sudden, David has another option. Now, do I come clean? Or do I keep covering this up? Do I keep trying to cover it up? And you know, he keeps trying to cover it up. Again, he tries it the next night. Uriah sleeps again on the porch, basically. So David again devises this plan. So here's what's going to happen. I've had to resort to this. He writes a note to Joab, the general, writes a note, and he says, I need you when he gets back to put Uriah on the front lines of the battle. And when you get to the opposing army, when the opposing army comes and meets you on the battlefield, pull the rest of your men back, and surely Uriah will die. Rolls it up, seals it, and hands it to Uriah to take back to the battle. Uriah was carrying his own death sentence given by a king that he's fighting for, who is representing God, and he's going back to the battle to die. Uriah goes out to the battle and does die on the front lines, and the word is sent back to David that he was killed. And David's got to be thinking, that's horrible, but it's done. It's done. It is officially covered up. Now, many of us have been there, right? I've got it. It's officially under wraps. I made it. But you're forgetting about one thing. The verse at the very end of this chapter said, and David's sin displeased the Lord. Whoa, the Lord. Where does he come into this story? Where does he come into the story of our sin? I'm tempted, I sin, I cover up. We go deep down the rabbit hole of sin and darkness and cover up. And all of a sudden, David hasn't even realized it yet. Scripture tells us. David hasn't even realized. And all meanwhile, there's one opinion that matters most of all opinions. And we as humans fail to remember his opinion. God's. When we sin, rarely do we think about him. Rarely do we think, does this hurt the heart of God? The God who sent his son to die for me and to take this sin upon himself on the cross. For me, have I even thought about what I've done to his heart and what he designed me to do? No. We think about the physical ramifications, the personal, relational ramifications, the financial ramifications, what people are going to think about us, and we rarely, if ever, think about God. So David completes his master plan by marrying Bathsheba. Now it looks like Uriah dies, and David is the noble best friend who marries the wife, and they conceive, and she has a baby, and it's been a year. 1 year passes, and we're in the next chapter. And the prophet Nathan hears something from God, the one that David thought he deceived, hears from God the true story of what happened, the prophet. So Nathan calls David off to the side one day and says, David, I need to tell you a story. He says, tell me. And Nathan says, there was these two men. One was wealthy and one was poor. The wealthy man had sheep and cattle that could cover a multitude of hillsides. A wealthy, wealthy man. And the man next door had a family, and they only had enough money for one tiny lamb. One tiny lamb. This lamb was so close to the family, the Bible even says that the lamb drank out of their cups and ate off of their plates. It was their pet, their family household pet. And Nathan's telling the story and says one day a traveler that was hungry came by and asked the wealthy man for some food. And the wealthy man with all of his sheep and cattle denies this man his and goes to his friend's house and steals the lamb, kills it, cooks it, and offers it up as a meal to the traveler. And Nathan tells David this, and David just erupts in anger and says, this man is corrupt and deserves to die. Who is this man? Who is this man? And in 2 Samuel chapter 12, in verse 7, Nathan says to him, you are that man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Before I say what he says, think about this. You're never going to fool God. You're never. He's the God of the universe, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipresent. He knows everything, all-knowing. I've done it and you've done it. There are times that even when you've sinned and you've fooled everyone, you think you even fooled God. But I'm going to say something right here, and it's crucial for you to understand this. When it comes to your sin, what you cover, God will one day uncover. But what you are willing in this moment to uncover in repentance, God will cover with his mercy and grace. But know that you don't fool God, and there will be a day. There will be a day. So this is what the Lord says. I anointed you king over Israel, David, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave your master's house to you and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all of Israel and Judah. And if all of this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. And then Nathan goes on and gives them this giant list of all of the consequences. He said there will be death and calamity in your home. There will be curses that come upon your family. And when you read the story of David's life, there was betrayal from his sons. There was death. There was calamity. There was all of this stuff. And David is just downloading all of these consequences from God because of the master cover-up. And at the very end of hearing all of the consequences, David finally says in verse 13, surely, Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. No kidding, you idiot. After all of this, a man after God's own heart, King David, after all of the sin, all of the cover-up, and then finally after all the consequences, oh, God, I'm sorry. Just like many of you in this position that you've had with your teenagers and they've come home late and they got caught. Like, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry. If you have kids, I mean, this is just, they only say sorry when they're caught, right? And what do we say as parents? Or if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend that cheats on you, you catch them. And then you're like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There's a phrase that we always say. We say, you're not sorry. You're just sorry that you got... Exactly. You guys have been there. David is in this exact same position. Is he sorry? Or is he sorry because he got caught? Because God did uncover what he covered. Temptation, guys, living on this ledge of sin, temptation will eventually overtake you. It will. Temptation, I would say, is like a deceiving movie preview. Have you guys ever been totally deceived by a movie preview? You saw a movie preview, you're like, that looks awesome. Yeah, I'm going to see it. Everybody does the whole whisper down the row. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, we're going to next Friday. Yeah, that kind of thing. And then, this is awesome. And then you go and buy tickets to it. There's this one movie called Jack and Jill. I don't know if you guys saw this Adam Sandler movie. Don't. Okay. But I'm sitting in another movie that I actually enjoyed, but I'm watching the preview for Jack and Jill. I remember sitting next to Mandy going, Mandy, this looks hilarious. I was dying laughing in the preview. I mean, they're jumping out of pools on wave runners. Adam Sandler is playing himself and his sister. I mean, it looked like all kinds of stuff that was going to be funny. I'm like, this is awesome. So we go on vacation. Remember, I was laughing my head off in the preview. We go on vacation, and we saw Jack and Jill. All 3 funny parts in the movie were in the preview. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm like sleeping during it. This is the worst. It's like 2.5 hours long. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. This is like the first step to hell right here. This is it. And I'm like, this is horrible. I hated the movie. And I was so mad because the people who made the preview are liars. They are liars. But isn't that funny? Because it's exactly what sin does to us. Sin offers a preview that the movie can never deliver. This temptation says, hey, this preview is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to love the way it feels. You're going to love the way it looks. You need this. You want this. take it in for yourself. You want this. And it's giving you, offering all this stuff up on a silver platter. And then when you finally dive in and follow your lust, the sin that the temptation promised never, ever gives you what you thought. Never. Sin will never give you what temptation promises. Never. But again, we see the preview, and we got to see the movie. Sometimes we think we get away with it, but sin without repentance only leads to consequences. Sin without repentance only leads to consequences, whether they're spiritual or physical. This is a great demonstration in this story. And I don't want to make God sound like he's this vicious God that's always on your tail trying to figure out what you've done wrong to give you consequences. He's not. But he is a just God. He is the righteous judge. So he will judge us, right? I mean, that's just how it is. He will judge us, and there will be consequences to actions. It blows my mind because I see parents all the time that say, hey, they'll talk to their teenagers or children and say, there are consequences to those actions. And then those parents receive this from God, there are consequences to those actions. How dare you judge me, God? Children, there are consequences. Isn't that weird that we do that? We don't like to be judged, but sometimes there just are consequences to our actions. So what causes this? What causes us to be like this? With David, what goes on in our heads spiritually? What happens in this moment where David comes to that dangerous ledge, that he's a man on a ledge on that palace, he sees Bathsheba. What happens in that moment with temptation? How in the world can we break this? Because it's one thing to talk about this story, go, man, that was a great teaching from this story, but how do we solve it? We all deal with temptation and sin. How do we break it? I'll tell you how. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cool. There's a spiritual side and there's a physical side to temptation. The spiritual side, it's the truth. Satan's out to get you. You are God's prized, chosen child, and Satan hates God and hates you more because he loves you more than him. And so Satan is after you. It's the truth. It's not a fairy tale. It's a biblical truth. But on the flip side of that, your brain is working against you. Your own brain in that moment of temptation is working against you. In our brains, we have this little section back here called the limbic system. I'm going to take the next 5 minutes in closing just to run this by you with some cool stuff. This little section in our brain, above the brain stem called the limbic system. The limbic system in our brain gives us, it's the survival center, it's the pain and pleasure center. A lot of scientists and neurologists call it the emotional part of the brain. It causes you to react. It causes you, like when somebody breaks in your house, if they do, and you see a shadow after a scary movie, it causes you to all of a sudden become like a karate kid and like, whoop-ah! Like when you see a shadow, it causes you to survive. Survive on something, react. It also causes you to have pain and pleasure and what to do with that. It's emotional and reactive. You guys know anybody that have really strong limbic systems, emotional and reactive? You guys know those people? Don't raise your hand because I might be sitting next to you. Okay, so the limbic system, pain. But when our brain processes and experiences pain, it sees it as a threat to our survival, and it wants you to begin to pursue pleasure. Your own brain does that. It works against you. When your limbic system perceives and experiences pain, it causes the pleasure part of it to override the pain because it perceives it as a threat to your survival. So I want to give you this. There was a scientist that talked about what this pain is. And I'm not talking about like you stub your toe pain and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a threat to my survival. I need a pedicure. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like there are certain kinds of pains that this scientist was talking about. And you can write the word blast, B-L-A-S-T. And it's an acrostic. I'm not going to write out all the words from it. But blast stands for 5 different words. And this scientist was breaking it down saying, these 5 words, when you are living in them, this form of pain, you are most susceptible to making a bad decision. Okay? It puts you at the weakest possible point. Number 1, B, is boredom. Boredom. You're thinking, boredom is pain? Yes, it's pain. I'll tell you how. 2 ways. If you have a kid, you know boredom is pain. Saturday morning when they don't have anything to do and you're trying to watch College Game Day on ESPN, your 3-year-old walks in and they're like, Daddy, I'm bored. I want to do something. You're like, okay, where's Mama? She's over there? Okay. Mama wants to play. That kind of thing. But all of a sudden they find out that you're just, and Asher will come back to me and go, I'm bored. You're like, okay, well, we're going to do something. Daddy is trying to watch us. Hold on. And all of a sudden, the pain part of boredom comes out, and all of a sudden, he sounds like a siren. It's like, I'm bored. He starts screaming, bored, falls down, starts crying, and it's like somebody just like poked his eyes out, and because he's bored. There is pain. And when you experience pain and boredom, you are weak in that moment of boredom. And in that moment of boredom, Satan goes, you're weak. And the pleasure is trying to override the boredom and saying, do something that gives you pleasure. You're bored. And Satan piggybacks on that pleasure. And all of a sudden, you have a tandem of things working against you. Give you another example of boredom. Mandy, when we're bored on a Monday morning or Saturday, like the two mornings we have off, we'll sit there at the house, and I'm looking at her, and the kids are at school, and I'm like, I'm bored. And she's like, me too. And our versions of, then our brains start overriding the pleasure systems. Like, you're bored, that's pain. And all of a sudden the pleasure's like, receive pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. And then, married couples, your versions of pleasure are like, woo! I'm not going to go into sick mode with this, but I'm just going to say this. In that moment with me, I want to watch movies. So I'm bored, and my brain goes, you're dying. Survive, survive, survive. You know what I'm talking about? Do something fun. And I'm like, movie or food. That's my fun. Movie, food. Anybody with me on that? Movie or food. Mandy, she's like, I'm bored. And her brain's like, do something that gives you pleasure. And she's like, I know what we can do. Like, what? Let's clean the house. Like, no. That's double boredom, and my limbic system's going to explode. I can't do that. And so, we'll sit there, and she's like, let's clean the house. I'm, no, let's watch a movie. She's like, I can't sit here and watch a movie. The house is dirty. We got to do this. I'm like, no, sit down. The house will take care of itself. It's been a year. We got some stories. Okay, so boredom. The L is loneliness. Anybody ever been lonely before? Loneliness is actually the precursor, the first step precursor to depression. And loneliness is a pit that many people can't get out of. But a lot of times it's a mental thing that's happening in our minds and it's convincing you of something. But again, Satan sees that and says, they're lonely. I know what their brain is already doing. It's working against them. The limbic system, the pleasure center is trying to override the pain, piggyback with it. A is anger, agitation, or anxiety. Anger, agitation, or anxiety puts you you're at your pinnacle of a risk factor. When you're angry, you want to lash out. When you're anxious about something and there's so much happening, Satan pinpoints you and says, they're weak. They're weak. Their mind is weak. I'm going to enter in. The S, so A is anger, agitation, anxiety. S is stress. Stress. Men, you come home from work, and you've been working all day, you're stressed. The finances aren't this isn't happening, work, all your family goes to sleep, you find yourself on your phone or at your computer, you're so stressed, and Satan goes, I know what his brain is doing. Let me piggyback on that and get him to look at porn. It's just a look. Sin for her. Go further, go deeper. That's how it happens. S is stress, and T is tiredness. You're just tired. Tired of life, tired of marriage, tired of this, tired of your job, and you're just physically exhausted. And Satan says, I will take advantage of that. I will take advantage of that. Isn't it interesting when you look at this? Stuff that's written in the Bible over 2,000 years ago, close to 2,000 years ago, stuff written in the Bible, solves this problem. I mean, Paul was a neurologist and he didn't even know it. In Romans chapter 2, it says to renew your mind daily. Every day, renew your mind. Well, you can read that growing up in Sunday school and go, all right, that's cool. Why do we need to renew our mind? That's why. Because every day that you wake up bored, lonely, angry, stressed, or tired, Satan is coming after you with everything he's got to kill you in that moment of temptation and sin. But if you wake up every morning and say, I will not coast today. I will not be bored. I will not be tired. I will no longer be anxious. I will not be stressed. I will not have this as a part of my life because I will be intentional and I will do everything I can. And when you renew your mind every day and refresh your mind, just like you refresh your computer, you start over every day and say, God, today is the Lord's day. And with it, I will do good. I will have joy today. I will walk in victory. I will walk in this. And when you renew your mind every single day, Satan doesn't have anything to work with in your brain, and all he's got is distant attacks that you can easily fend off. But when you are at your weakest point, just like an animal and a lion, an animal that's already limping and dragging its leg is the easiest target for a lion. And the Bible says that Satan is like a crouching lion, a roaring lion waiting to devour you. When you're limping, you're an easy prey. Are you limping today? And there's this, where you can look at David. Let me just think of David for a second in this moment. Okay, boredom. Well, yeah, he's not where he should be. He's at the palace by himself. All of his buddies are at war. He's bored. He's lonely. He's anxious, waiting to hear reports. We saw that from his conversation with Uriah. He's anxious. He's stressed about all this stuff and running a kingdom, and he's just tired. I've been in all these battles and all these wars. I'm just tired. Do you understand that this was so much more than just a spiritual thing with David? This was a mental thing as well. That when he got there, he's at his weakest possible point, and Satan says, you know what I'm getting ready to do? Bring down the man after God's own heart. And guess what he did? He brought him down. Because he was weak and didn't renew his mind that day. There's another part of your brain in the front, your frontal lobe, and they call it the logic center. And this is where you make your executive decisions on life. This is where you say, I'm going to go to college here. I'm going to go on a diet. I am going to not enter into this anymore. I'm going to stop looking at porn. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm not going to make this decision with temptation. This is where you make your big decisions. But when you do this and you cut off your body or your mind from pleasure, if you say, I don't want to do this any longer, guess what your limbic system does? It jumps up and goes, what are you doing? Why are you keeping pleasure away from us? No. And it gets in gear and starts sending as many just signals to your brain as possible to get you to want to enter into this pleasure. Because according to your limbic system, you're not surviving because you're cutting off your pleasure. Think about this for a second. I'll give you an example. Let's say you make the executive decision to go on a diet. And you go, all right, it's been 4 days. I've been thinking about this 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years, whatever. And finally you get to a place where I'm going on a diet today. I've had enough. And all of a sudden your brain goes, what did they just say? They're denying us pleasure? No. And your limbic system starts fighting against you with everything that it's got. That's why on the very day that you say you're going on a diet is the same day you are cramming your face with donuts. Is because you guys experienced it. I'm going on a diet, and everything that day looks way more delicious than it ever has. It's because of this. Your limbic system is a jerk. That's why. And so when you make that decision, it just starts coming after you. Coming after you. Paul said in Romans chapter 7, this is interesting. We know that the law is spiritual, but I am merely a human, and I have been sold as a slave to sin. In fact, I don't understand why I act the way I do. I don't do what I know is right. I do the things I hate. Although I don't do what I know is right, I agree that the law is good. I mean, this is the Apostle Paul. Paul saying, I know what's right, but I find myself not doing it. I'm hating what I'm doing, but I agree that the other thing is right. Isn't that weird? Doesn't it just make you feel good just a little bit that an apostle has the same thoughts as us? Like, I really want to do that, but why am I doing this? I'm doing what I hate, and he's back and forth and back and forth. And this is Paul. Why? It's because of this. Because Paul knows, and Paul was writing about it, when I look at something and say, I am not going to do this, this is what's so crazy, and this is what scientists have come up with in the last 5 years of really researching the brain, that when you are concentrating on something to not do it, it's almost impossible for you to stop. You can't say, I'm not going to do porn anymore. I'm not going to look at it. I am not going to be a porn addict. I'm not going to be a porn addict. And all of a sudden you're looking at porn. I'm not going to do this. I am not going to do this. Because when you tell your brain you're not going to do something, your limbic system works against you. So instead, scientists are saying, stop saying what you aren't going to do and start saying what you are going to do. Doesn't that work beautifully with Scripture? Instead of saying, I'm a porn addict, I'm an alcoholic, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm not going to do that, and you're just sitting here looking at it, and I'm this, and I'm that, doing, what? The Bible says, no. Flee from that. Turn from your sin and move towards God. That's the Bible I read. I don't know if it's the Bible you read, but God doesn't sit there and say, talk all day about how you're not going to do it. No. It says, look at it, declare what you are, and say, I am going to be this, and move towards the center of the palace roof and get away from the ledge. It is scientifically proven that this whole process that happens in your brain with the limbic system, the frontal lobe, and all this decision making, that the limbic system only has enough chemicals to last for 2 to up to 8 minutes. That's it. So the physical side of temptation only lasts up to 8 minutes. Now you think about all the mistakes you've made thinking, I was only 2 minutes away from not being stupid? Crap. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. But in that moment where you see something as, no, I'm not going to do it. I am going to do this. Your brain can only work against you for 8 minutes. And Satan works through the power of your brain. Well, you're thinking, does Satan need to work? Yes, he does need to work through the power of your brain because Satan is not near as strong as we make him out to be in churches. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you accept Christ as your Savior, the power of the resurrection resides in you. The power of the resurrection defeated Satan and the grave. So when Satan comes after you, you can say, no, I have the power of Jesus Christ in front of it, with me, all around me, and declare it and move away. But you can't cast out your own flesh. So you have to understand your brain and how it works. 2 to 8 minutes is the physical side of temptation. A lot of people, I'm wrapping this up. A lot of people will say this, and I've heard this all through the years of being a pastor. They're living on this edge, this constant edge, man or woman on the ledge. Godliness is over there and sin's right here. And we're like, this is what we do. I'm a Christian, but I'm going to live as close as I possibly can to sin. I want to smell it, touch it, taste it. I want it as a part of my life. Isn't that crazy that we do that? We have all of this room to be a godly, and sin's right there, and this is where all the Christians are lined up in America. They're smashed up against the wall. I want to be as close as I can. And these are the same people that are like, somebody will come up to you from back here and go, why are you dabbling in that? Well, it's not technically a sin. Not technically. I'm technically still on the stage. It's not technically a sin. Well, why are you living with so-and-so? It's not technically a sin. Why are you doing it? Well, it's not technically. Well, you're not technically a Christian. That's the problem. That's the problem. Now, I'm not trying to harp on this, but man, one of the biggest problems that I've seen in America, and if this is you, I am not bashing you. I am telling the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts, but Scripture says the truth is the only thing that can set us free. It's not okay to live with someone outside of marriage. It's not. It is not okay to live a life as close as you possibly can to sin without technically sinning. You think God desires that? You're like, well, he doesn't judge my outward appearance. He judges my heart. Exactly. Who with a right heart wants to live as far away from God as they can and still claim his name? No. People with a godly heart step away from the ledge and say, why do I want to get as close as I can to evil when I have a God who has a plan and a destiny for my life? Why would I want to do that? It's the truth. It's the truth. Revelation, and this is the scripture that validates that, Revelation 3:16 says, so because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, this is Jesus speaking, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. That kind of sounds harsh, right? I mean, because you're neither hot nor cold and you're lukewarm, I'm technically a Christian, God, technically. I see the temptation. I see it. Technically a Christian. I'm a man, woman on the ledge. Technically, you're technically lukewarm. And the scripture I just said that lukewarm is spewed out of his mouth. Lukewarm people are not Christ followers. Listen to our own verbiage. I'm a Christ follower. Well, follow Christ. I'm a Christian, but a Christian literally means little Christ. Christ doesn't dabble in sin. Christ doesn't. Well, people are, well, you expecting me to be perfect? No, you're not going to be perfect, but you're going to be dedicated. You're not going to live your life facing sin. You're going to live your life facing Jesus. That's what a Christian life is. And there will be times where Satan will win a battle, but a Christian always wins the war. And you keep going back, and you keep going back, and you keep going back. Guys, I want you to think about where you're at spiritually today. Are you on this ledge? Have you been overtaken by temptation? Why live here when you can live there? This is not a time in our culture. We cannot, in this time, live in gray. There has to be black and white truth. There has to be. We at this church, our pastors, don't teach gray issues. Black and white. It's the truth. It's sin or it's not. It's sin or it's not. I'm thankful that we serve under a pastor that preaches the truth, preaches the Bible, because in this time, day and age, we can't afford for lukewarm teaching. or it'll only produce lukewarm Christians. Don't live in the gray. Don't live in the gray.